Charles Novia. He joins us for this segment. He's a movie producer. One, and I thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure.
But interestingly, this film festival also going on here, and of course, when you talk about Calabar, Tinapa, what comes to mind is tourism, relaxation. How is the movie industry taking advantage of that?
Well, I think the whole idea when Tinapa was built and they fixed a movie studio as part of the structure here was that we should have a world-class facility where movie makers and even advertisers, because we found out that a lot of our advertising agencies were shooting their adverts in South Africa or Brazil or India. The whole idea was to encourage local production, but I think somewhere along the line a big mistake, administrative mistake was made in terms of the cost of hiring such structures, or probably it was basically ahead of its time at that point in time. If it was now that the structure was to be built, we would have had more input from the filmmakers. But I don't think that. I think the grandiose ideas, the grandiose plans of that structure wasn't really made with the local industry in mind. So that is why it remained a little bit. It remained just moribund. It remained fallow for a long time until I think Ebony Light is using it right now. But from what I've seen so far, the ambience of Calabar, the whole serenity is quite conducive for filmmakers to shoot. I know a few have taken advantage of that, but it depends on the stories. The stories basically from Nollywood, as it were, is a little bit cosmopolitan, or maybe rural, and sometimes the filmmakers would gravitate towards where they feel the localities.
But this vicinity or this environment does provide a little bit of all of those, doesn't it?
It does, but I would not really know why most filmmakers are not using here as a film base, as it were. But I know that sometimes there's a bandwagon mentality in the industry wherein people would just feel, look, if it's Enugu is happening, everybody's shooting the same location and all that. Well, I think it is happening.
It's almost in every sector.
Don't you think it's about the awareness? Because people from almost all over the world, we're talking about Nollywood, but also Hollywood stars, they come here. And just last night we saw a couple of them in Little Whitfield was with a few people. If they can come all the way to Nigeria and come to Tinapa, it looks to me that there is some form of awareness outside and within.
Oh yes, I think there's an attempt to also bring the international angle to it. Inviting them to a festival of this kind is commendable. It's not the first time. I think a lot of them are coming for programs such as this. AMA every year brings a whole lot of them too as well. But I still think there's really a disconnect between their coming and then the intent of of what the producers or the program administrators needed bringing them. But all the same, it is all quite a good PRO mechanism for the country, for the government, because they go back and say, okay, there's something happening here. And one way or the other, whatever the misgivings people have about Nollywood, is telling a story, it's telling the black man's story, the African story, which is very important, no matter how people think the quality of the stories or the stories themselves are a little bit, melodramatic.
Let me what kind of misgivings?
Okay, I travel a lot and I hear people say, oh, okay, you guys have got great stories, but it's voodoo, or it's bloodletting, it's killing and all that. And just about 3 weeks ago, I did a comparative analysis, in the US about this, and I was telling somebody, we watched Thor, and I said in Thor had a huge hammer, and they'll throw all the special effects, hit somebody, the person will fly and all that. What was that? That's magic. But if Nollywood were to do that, we'll do that with a lot of incantations and we say it is voodoo. So the Hollywood itself, they've been able to package their kind of linear magic as something much more appealing visually. while we are still struggling and using basic or traditional our traditional wings the way we understand it. So it is what you call voodoo in Nollywood movies. It's basically magic and white magic in Hollywood movies. So people would see and say, oh, and especially the people from the West, they will see and say, oh, you guys are doing voodoo and rituals. The ritual films, let me even come on, not as if I'm in support of any of all those things, but I'm just doing a general analysis. The ritual films, or the films you see where people, slaughter and other than Nollywood films, we see a whole lot of that, what they call the snuff films in Hollywood, where you see somebody who's looking so, he's looking normal, but he's killing. If you watch some of those horror movies, he's killing. There's no difference, really, when you look at it in terms of the content. It's just the environment.
And even the rituals, we'll also see a couple of them in Bollywood movies.
Oh yes. In Bollywood movies, I mean, the Indians have been able to tell their own stories using their cultural background. They've been trying, but I even think Bollywood, as it were, India is being influenced a lot by the Western, incursion into Hollywood. Since Slumdog Millionaire won the Oscar, even before then, slightly before then, but and that is another problem. I don't know whether it's a problem. I always ask this because people ask, if you guys want to go international, I say, I do not need to go international. That is me personally. The market for me is 1 billion Africans. Yeah. I'm telling a story to the people, my people that can relate to those stories. I do not want to go to Hollywood and struggle and be among the plethora of filmmakers waiting to shoot. There are some filmmakers abroad in Hollywood that I see. They finished film school years ago. They've never shot a film. Their films are in their head. Some of them would die without shooting one film. But what Nollywood has been able to do is that it gives you that verve. You come out, you think about it, you shoot it. No matter how crass it is, you have become one way or the other. You've realized your dreams, your ambitions, through that. So it's all a huge self-belief industry.
One of the things that has brought you to Tinapa, if not the major thing, is the African Film Festival.
Right.
Would you have come here otherwise?
Frankly, maybe not. And I would also like to commend the organizers of this because a whole lot of filmmakers are here too for this program. I was here a few years ago when Tinapa was the opening day of Tinapa, and I've not been here since. And quite impressed by the changes, the structure, everything, the welcoming ambience and all that. I do not think too that people would not want to come, but there's got to be a reason for them to come. The tourism potentials in this country, I think, in this state, is not, I do not think has been hugely explored. There's still a whole lot of things to do. But of course, if you're thinking of tourism, you think first of Calabar. But why are a whole lot of us not coming here? That is why. So
that's a major question. That's definitely going to be the next question.
Right.
I mean, you said you were here at the opening. You saw the excellent facilities,
right,
which you also think were way above, its time at that time. But now that you're looking at it, you're thinking that Nollywood can actually adapt some of those facilities to its production. Why is it that it would seem that nobody has really come back after the opening of Tinapa?
I think between that time and now, when the studio opened, a whole lot of investment was made in the industry into building their own self-structures. So almost every producer has got his own studio, small, however small. And then the reality shows, the TV singing reality shows, all these reality shows we have, they use massive studios too. So a whole lot of warehouses in Lagos, were turned into, were converted. So the whole idea of coming to Calabar was sort of truncated, so a whole lot of investment was going on in the hub of Nollywood, which is in Lagos.
Looking at the visual there,
right,
the shots right here in Tinapa.
Right.
For you, well, I say, well, good, but this is my first time here in Tinapa, and actually, these are lovely scenery.
Yes.
That can actually make for good movies, as you rightly highlighted initially. Because the truth is, it all depends on the kind of movie you want to shoot. True. But the serenity is something that someone can actually cash in on for movie producers as well as holiday makers.
The serenity is quite surreal, if you ask me. it is if you're coming from a state like Lagos where there's so much hustle and bustle, and you feel the serenity here, you just go, no, this is not Nigeria, this is not you know. And I
actually said that to myself. Looking across my window,
yeah.
oh my God, it looks to me like I was somewhere else.
Yes.
in Europe.
In Europe, yes. I do not. Also, I think attempts were made. I know a couple of my colleagues tried shooting some big budget movies here. Obi Omalayan tried shooting Mirror Boy here, but I don't know what happened. I was trying to shoot it at Obudu Cattle Ranch, but he had to go to Gambia to shoot. I think he said there was a little bit of problems doing that. But I think at that point, Tinapa, the state itself lost a huge, a huge chance to also bring more attention, and maybe make a lot of us that followed suit, But what happened after that was that a few producers went to Gambia to shoot.